Nice trees. Oh man, I wish I could ride this train. Little train. Little helicopters. Oh man, this is a pretty big abandoned building. How big it was. You really couldn't get a good view of it until you ride the train. God, this train is so shaky. I swear I'm not this shaky with the camera. There goes the wild one. I think we're approaching the end of our scenic train ride through Six Flags America. There's the wild one. Should I ride the wild one? I don't know. I'll look at the line. I should ride at least one roller coaster. Be ashamed to come all the way to Six Flags America and not ride one roller coaster at least. Alright, train ride's over. That was fun. Okay, mission accomplished. I rode the train. Next mission, find some water. One have acquired agua. Now to check out the wild one. People appear to be leaving the line. Lots of people are leaving the line. Alright, let's see what's happening. Is it closed? We'll find out. Oh. Alright, looking at that line, maybe I don't want to ride the wild one today. Good God. I want to go home now. I've had enough fun in this place. Alright everyone, I might have actually come to Six Flags America and not ride a single roller coaster today. The wild one line, a little ridiculous for me. I'll ride it again someday. But, I don't know, I'm pretty bummed about Superman being closed, so I don't know. I think I'm gonna leave now. Sun's out, guns out. Yeah, something like that, right? Guys, we're double dipping here. We got both Marvin the Martian and Daffy Duck. Man, well, at least we struck the jackpot today with the Looney Tunes, right? Alright guys, I just met Marvin the Martian. Well, I already met Marvin the Martian. I've already met Daffy Duck. I got a picture with both of them. And I wish I could have filmed that interaction because the first thing Marvin did was look at my t-shirt, which got the Looney Tunes on it. And he noticed that he wasn't on the shirt. Yeah, no Marvin the Martian on the t-shirt. And he was real disappointed. I mean, he walked out of the picture. He didn't want to be in the picture. Daffy just stood there kind of confused, and I pointed out to Daffy that, hey Daffy, you're on the shirt, but no Marvin the Martian. Marvin was big mad. And then I was like, please come back. I had to beg him to come back for, a picture.
I have Marvin
and then
the
he came back and I said, Marvin, it's not my fault. Blame Six Flags. They're the ones that make the t-shirts.
See Marvin
So yeah, I'm sorry, Marvin the Martian. It's not my fault that you're on the t-shirt. All in all, not a bad day. Finally got to ride the train.
It's on my t-shirt now.
Met a lot of Looney Tunes. Probably check out the gift shops up here. The guy's name on sale or clearance yet, seeing as the park closes in a few months. So let's see on the other side.
You should have seen that gift shop in the last
Let's
day,
go look
brother.
at some merch.
It was cleared out.
Alright
There was
guys,
nothing left.
into the Looney Tunes Emporium, my favorite theme park merchandise store.
All of that was gone on the last day. Nothing left. There were just
They got
boxes of
fuel
junk
rods
on
here.
the
Good to know
floor.
for the future reference, Chris. Got fuel rods.
It was wild. It was like Wild West.
I believe that's a pig.
I'm assuming all of these statues and props and signs from the park are going to be sold in some kind of liquidation auction.
Investor in Tweety. Got Yelma Floyd.
Be cool to know where, when, and where the auction is. It's going to have some of this stuff because I really do want that Marvin the Martian statue.
Batman the Animated Series. Yeah, some kind of Batman. Got Roadrunner. Oh, there's that jabroni Marvin the Martian.
Greetings, Earthling.
So yeah, that's the face he
Where's
gave
the
me
kaboom?
He didn't pull the gun out though, which I'm thankful for. But yeah, Marvin wasn't happy to see me this time. I guess this is director Daffy Duck. Is this supposed to be like Cecil B. DeMille over here? Cecil B. Daffy? I don't know. Action.
That was a really big statue of Daffy Duck that they had.
It's a lot of Hello Kitty.
I'm sure that statue's gonna fetch a lot of money. It's a big one.
So I never really understood Hello Kitty. And my coworker told me that the whole point of Hello Kitty and why she's an admirable character is because she doesn't talk.
We are friends of Hello Kitty on this channel. Friends of the kitty. Friends of cats everywhere.
Lesson we could all take to heart, folks.
We love our kitty friends.
Nation's Thrill Capital, Maryland Crabs, Wild One, Funnel Cakes, Candy Apples, Six Flags. Alright, I had enough fun in the gift shops. Time to really leave. Alright, everyone. It's been a fun day.
I mean, for
it's been a
small
day here
park
at Six Flags
they had a nice little entrance.
Rob being solo. Braless without my super coaster bra Chris.
For being named Six Flags America, they had the little colonial theme going. Who gets the That's All Folks banner? Alright, next video. Let's see.
Hong Kong.
Rob returns to Six Flags America.
Hola, mis amigos. I'm here again at Six Flags America.
We're back at Six Flags America.
On
wow.
A sad, dark, gloomy, maybe possibly rainy Tuesday. And my last weekday
Six Flags
ever
America
at
is pretty much the reason we started our channel.
Let's begin. Alright, so last time I was here solo, I said in my blog, I complimented the bathrooms in my blog.
Seemed entertaining that we said
I think everything I said about the bathrooms.
Then we figured next time we go, we should probably just record it and see what happens.
Walking down Main
and thus
Street,
the birth
USA,
of the channel.
1776, I suppose. Loud patriotic music gets you in the mood for America. See what's going on with the show situation today. Do you think we can catch any good shows? I've only seen the stunt show here.
I never saw Rhythmics, the show that's being advertised
nope,
on the side
that's just
there.
someone operating the scrambler ride. Oh man, wait a minute. No shows today. Now to check which Looney Tunes can we possibly meet today.
I don't know if I met any Looney Tunes that day. There weren't really many to meet. I already met Daffy and Tweety's a jabroni.
Who's the Gator Queen? Who's the Gator King? I know Daffy, met him. Tweety, kind of a jabroni. And there goes the flying carousel. It's actually operating
Tweety's a jabroni because he always needs Granny's help, or he needs that dog's help to evade or avoid
everyone
or not get
is
eaten by
half naked on the paintings as usual. Nothing's changed as far as that goes. But yeah, here's the flying carousel in action. An oldie but a goodie and a squeaky.
It's a very squeaky ride. Oh man, the Mad Hatter's Tea Party had nothing on this teacup ride.
Nice presentation for a simple teacup ride, though. Bravo to Six Flags America. Making our way to Mardi Gras, and I still don't have any points, but I'll be okay. Let's find out.
Down, New Orleans, Mardi Gras, Cajun,
I might ride that. We'll see. walking down Bourbon Street, I suppose.
If it was Bourbon Street, there'd probably be a lot more people walking along the street and just vomiting everywhere. Being loud and obnoxious. I mean, I've never been to New Orleans, but I imagine the very touristy parts, like Bourbon Street, can be full of very annoying people.
Anything happening down in this corner of New Orleans?
Once again, we were saying earlier, the Raging Cajun seems to be like it's going to be moved to another park. And from the latest drone footage, the Wild One and most of the other coasters at the park are still standing at the moment, as of March 4th, 2026.
I do see the blue train sitting on the brake run.
And as we are watching this, I'm going to do a Duolingo lesson to keep my streak going.
Station is very quiet. We're not off to a great start. It looks like the Wild One is currently not running. So let's go find something else to ride. I promise I'm going to ride a roller coaster today. It won't be like that last vlog. Time for a water fountain update.
Yeah, the water fountain still wasn't running.
Still not technically a water fountain.
Same water,
that
just
sitting water probably isn't
the last
good.
time I was there.
Like Legionnaire's disease or something.
Yeah, it's some big old petri dish and
so I currently hear the chain lift for the Wild One running. So maybe there is hope that it will open today. I don't think they would be running the lift hill if they weren't planning to run it at some point today. It seemed like that would be kind of a waste, right?
Yeah, it would be a waste, right?
Anyway, let's make our approach into Gotham City. Entering Gotham City. Still hear the lift hill for the Wild One running, so there is hope. Time for a water fountain review. It's a 7 out of 10 today. Not bad for cop water.
7 out of 10, not a bad water fountain.
Because this is the water fountain at the Gotham City Police Department.
I never did get a chance to ride Harley Quinn's Spinsanity, but I'd imagine they'd probably be moving that to another park in the chain. It's somewhere, you would think. It's still a fairly new ride.
No, that's some Spinsanity. That thing goes high. That's higher than I thought it went. That's a nice breeze, though.
Yeah, it was a nice breeze. Look at this plants move.
Get that breeze. Whoa! I got it right. I've never ridden it. I still have a feeling they might move this to King's Dominion or another Six Flags Cedar Fair park nearby.
To my knowledge, it hasn't been moved to King's Dominion.
Walking down the Boulevard of Broken Dreams now to Superman and Batwing. You get the reference, you know what I'm saying. They're both probably going to be closed, but I'm expecting it now, so hopefully it won't be too bad. I wonder if the Burgess Meredith River is operating today. We shall see.
Who was Burgess Meredith, you may be asking? Well, Burgess Meredith was an actor from old Hollywood. He was in films such as Of Mice and Men, and he played the Penguin on the original Batman series, hence why, as you pass by the Penguin ride, I refer to it as the Burgess Meredith ride, or Burgess Meredith Blizzard River.
I hear water running.
It's a pop culture reference.
Maybe there's hope for the
There's a lot of these in these videos. I'm old, so I have a lot of old reference points.
Lasso of truth is lassoing. Yeehaw! Don't cowboys use lassos?
You know who originally played Wonder Woman? Linda Carter. Still the best Wonder Woman.
Behind me. It's very loud.
Ooh, Gail Gadot. Yeah, she's a terrible actress.
20 stories, if you will.
I mean, beautiful woman, but terrible actress. Has no right playing Wonder Woman.
Looks like they all had fun. Now to continue down our path to the full of water broken drains.
Yeah, once again, this was the second consecutive
no.
time I visited Six Flags America, and
like
Superman Ride of Steel was closed. They kept saying they were waiting on a part.
Maybe one day.
I'm not sure what the part was. I think it was something wrong with the trains. I don't know. But at least they had it open and running for the last day of operations. On the last day, I think I waited about an hour and a half to ride it.
Before, this is the same exact model, same exact design as the Flight of Fear roller coaster.
I prefer the Joker's Jinx over the Flight of Fears at King's Dominion and King's Island, though. You kind of just go straight through that mid-course brake run. Doesn't really act as brakes.
To say the least, in the station at least.
Yeah, it doesn't slow down. So you can just see right there, it does not slow down through that little mid-course brake run there.
So far, most of the things I've encountered have been closed, though.
Yeah, a lot of things were closed that day.
Away to the other side of the park.
Wasn't the best day necessarily at Six Flags America I ever had.
This place is a ghost town today.
And it was very empty.
Half the attractions are closed, so it seems more crowded than it actually is. I don't know, it's weird here. There's Chris's favorite roller
I wasn't going to ride that, no matter how short the wait was. I rode it once, never needed to ride it again.
Chicago, Illinois. It was originally a stand-up roller coaster. Then it was converted into a floorless coaster. And I'm not going to bore you too much, but it was the first B&M roller coaster ever manufactured. And people are riding it because they're braver than I am. Well, Roar is running. Should that be the first ride I get on today? Maybe on the front row, it won't be so bad. No one is riding the swinging ship. Riding there, you're just waiting for someone to want to ride it.
I never rode the swinging ship there.
Swinging ship. So we make our way through the Chesapeake section of the park.
That was a cool sign for Roar. I mean, at that point, it definitely needed a paint job, but it was a cool sign.
At least the ride ops here are hype. Everyone I've heard on the microphone so far has been.
Yeah, one of the best parts of the dying days of Six Flags America was definitely the ride operators.
Seem to be in good spirits,
the ride operators, for the most part, were pretty nice. They were always had good attitudes. A lot of them really got you hype for your upcoming ride.
Shipwreck Falls is running.
They were cool.
Let's do a water check.
I hope all of them that no longer have jobs find jobs and do well. Gonna miss you, Six Flags America employees.
But yeah, Shipwreck Falls, you definitely get soaked on this one.
Yeah, you do get soaked on that one.
Scrapyard. I don't think they're gonna move this down any other park in the chain.
I think the only other water ride I've gotten as soaked on as I did on Shipwreck Falls is probably Popeye and Pluto's Build-Trap Barges at Universal's Islands of Adventure. It's a big splash. This kid got soaked.
How was it? You look soaked. Making our way into Steam.
It looks as almost there's more employees there than there are people that day. More employees and more security guards than there are people. Well, more than guests.
Let's do a water check. Oh, there's the fish.
Wonder what happened to the fish. When I went on the very last day, the fish were no longer there.
Blurp, blurp.
If anyone out there knows, tell me what happens to the Six Flags
one of my
America
favorite
fish.
water fountains. The water fountain at the entrance of Steamtown to the left.
Oh yeah, here comes another quality water fountain that you could find at Six Flags America.
It's a high quality water fountain, 8 out of 10. Let's take a look at the steam whirler here. This ride actually malfunctioned a few days ago. 32 people had to be evacuated off the ride. It was all over the news. This park can't catch a break when it comes to publicity, can it?
I never rode the steam whirler. I mean, it looks cool, but yeah, I never rode it.
It's whirling. I don't know about the steam part, but it's whirling. The steam whirler.
We all
Are they having fun?
See what I mean? The operators are cool. Guy just randomly says during the ride cycle, "Oh, they're having fun."
Doesn't look like too much is happening at Quantum River Rapids at the moment. The water's running, so maybe it'll open later. We shall see. It is eerily
low key.
Quiet
That was the best ride at Six Flags America. The Quantum River Rapids dinosaur raft ride.
Mind Eraser, whatever it is.
Not quite Jurassic Park River Adventure, but it was solid.
But sadly, the Dinosaur Rapids, Jurassic Park Rapids ride is not operating. But the water is running.
The water was running. There was hope.
All quiet on the western front. They definitely have one train operation with the train sitting right there in the brake run.
Professor Screamore Skylander.
Also, see the Eleveth? I think there's more security here today than actual guests.
Hey, I was just saying that earlier.
More employees in general than guests today. High employee to guest ratio.
High employee to guest ratio that day at Six Flags America.
This thing still hasn't moved. What is happening? The music I'm hearing in the background right now is freaking insane. Sounds like some kind of rock opera.
Oh yeah, I do remember that music. I think it might have been a custom soundtrack for Steampunk Town there at Six Flags.
Do you think Rusty Razor?
Where can I find that soundtrack? Is it on Spotify?
Good one, good pun. Oh god, I just made a pun. Oh no, help me. Do you think he could trim my beard? Time to walk back to the Wild One. To Mardi Gras.
Seems like I do a lot of walking in these videos when I go to Six Flags America.
Another empty boat is going up Shipwreck.
It's not a very big park, but I end up getting a lot of steps in.
Steam Heist on show today. Closed. Closed.
Luckily, I saw the Steam Heist on show the previous visit.
It's possible I'll never see it again, but at least I got to watch it once.
I was able to see it one more time on the last day ever at Six Flags America. I'm not really sure the
historical accuracy of this one, considering automobiles definitely didn't exist during the time of the Minutemen during the American Revolution. I know they're trying to go for, but historically, failed.
Minuteman Motors.
There's some carousel.
You just go out to the parking lot pretty much, turn around, and that's it.
It's probably seen better days.
The Blue Ridge Tollway at Kings Dominion is top tier car ride.
We got that Wascally Wabbit up there, Bugs Bunny.
I mean, S tier would be Tomorrowland Speedway or probably Autopia at Disneyland, but A tier Blue Ridge Tollway at Kings Dominion.
Daffy. Meet Roadrunner. So, who gets the fountain when the park closes?
Le Mans back in the day was a solid car ride at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. That definitely would have been A tier at least.
Great chase. Got a Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner themed roller coaster.
I never rode that roller coaster. I wouldn't really consider myself a roller coaster enthusiast, more as a theme park enthusiast. So I'm not so desperate for roller coaster credits as some of the other coaster enthusiasts out there. For example, I don't need to ride a kiddie coaster in order to get a credit. I mean, I'll ride it if I want to, but I'm not going to have to find a little kid to accompany to ride because tall people and adults aren't allowed to ride it without a kid.
I want to ride the drop tower now.
I draw the line somewhere.
Looking at the line, it looks like I might be the only one riding it. Voodoo Drop. It must be the Fast Pass.
Voodoo Drop.
So I was about to ride the Voodoo Drop.
Closed.
And I noticed there was a chain at the entrance, and I thought nothing of it. I walked to the other side and realized, oh, that's just the exit. Oh, there is no way to get on this ride right now. They literally just closed it. Staff is leaving. It's not broken down. A lot of the issues here as far as operations are definitely staffing issues, not maintenance issues. I want to clarify that for everyone out there. These rides are perfectly safe, but no Voodoo Drop for now. I'm very disappointed. That was really going to be the first ride I rode today.
I still haven't ridden anything in this video. Oh my goodness.
Oh man. So we have a train going up the
Six Flags America videos where I go by myself.
There is hope.
I just do a lot of
I'm
walking
pretty sure
and
it's
looking
gonna
at
open
things.
at some point today.
I only
I'm
rode the
confident
train in
in
the
that.
last video, and in this video I still haven't ridden a
Else they
single
wouldn't be
thing
doing
yet.
all this. See my Pantheon shirt representing Busch Gardens today.
It's a badass t-shirt,
Ride the
by the
Joker's
way.
Jinx. Nothing else is really
Busch
operating
Gardens
that's
has
interesting to me right now.
good merchandise.
So
Busch
we're
Gardens
outdoor
Williamsburg
flight
at
of
least.
fear.
I don't want to talk about Busch
Let's
Gardens
get
Tampa
jinxed
Bay.
by the Joker. Does the Joker laugh like that?
I think I'm about to ride the Joker's Jinx. Here he goes. This loser's finally gonna ride something. Sitting here
I was just informed
making
Wonder
and
Woman
watching
got
theme
stuck.
park videos and won't even get on a freaking ride at Six Flags America.
Oh man, that guy wasn't lying. Let's
No, he still didn't ride it.
go
Come on, man.
investigate
Get on the
Wonder
ride, you
Woman. I think I
loser.
didn't decide to ride that
Stop
today.
walking around and looking at things.
Yikes. So apparently they were stuck, and I did see it stuck for a few minutes, but it looks like they're lowering them down now. Okay, time to ride the Joker's Jinx for real now. Took a detour to see a stuck Wonder Woman Lasso of Truth.
Yeah, the Lasso of Truth did get stuck, but it didn't get stuck at the very top. It got stuck just about like 10 to 15 feet above the ground. So nothing too crazy, but it did technically get stuck for a few minutes. This is a cool game. I mean, by Six Flags America standards, it's cool. I mean, it's more themed than the Superman
I just rode the
queue
Joker's
was.
Jinx, second row from the front. If you know how to prepare yourself for this transition, it's actually not that rough. I think Flight of Fear, at least to me,
Joker's Jinx
rougher
isn't
this
really
one.
that rough.
I mean, I don't
The
hold my
Flight of
head
Fears are
against
probably
the back,
rougher.
so maybe that's why I keep my head a little bit
Definitely
off
when I
the
change the
head pad.
videos rougher.
And I don't really get a bumping. I don't know. I don't think it's that bad.
Another example of a roller coaster tycoon park in real life where they just plop down clones and pre-existing, pre-made roller coasters in a giant field and said, "This is Gotham City."
They had fun. So it appears as though the wild one is operating. So I'm definitely going to try to ride that while it's still running before they move the staff to another ride to operate for the rest of the day.
I think
they work
a lot of it at Six Flags America was they would just rotate staff, and when they did,
Skeleton crew here, I guess,
rides
at
would
this point.
close, and then another one would open because they rotated the staff from one ride to another, but in the process closed the ride because of the ride they were previously at was closed for the rest of the day.
Station is very empty. Good. So I just rode the wild one. A little bit rougher than I remember it being, but it's been at least 2 months since I've ridden it. There's some airtime. I don't know. It's an okay wooden roller coaster. I'm not really gonna.
I was really harsh on the wild one on
I
this
know
review,
it's historic.
but when
I
you're riding
honestly
like
think
the
both
front
of the
car,
roller
it's a
coasters down the
solid
road
wooden
in,
roller coaster.
Here, the King's Dominion,
Give it
better.
an 8 out of 10 on a good
Definitely
day.
the Grizzly better, and even the Racer 75 better. Sorry to be comparing so much to King's Dominion, but I can't help
I
it.
still
The
think
parts
both of
so
those are
close
better than
together,
the wild
they
one,
share a
Racer
little bit of
75 and Grizzly at King's Dominion.
Hopefully King's Dominion doesn't suffer the same fate. Only time will tell. I'm not too optimistic about the Six Flags Cedar Fair merger.
I'm still not very optimistic about it.
See how it goes. I hear the train. I hear the train a coming. It's rolling down the bend. All right,
this guy thinks he's Johnny Cash or something.
It says open Saturdays and Sundays, but maybe since so many rides are closed down there.
They did have the train running.
Definitely hear that engine
like
running.
The engine itself running, but the train never moved from the station that day.
Cool.
I guess they were.
So now I smell the exhaust. Something. I knew it was only a matter of time.
But yeah, you can smell the exhaust because they were running the train
again.
So I thought there was a chance they could have opened it.
I don't know. Maybe I'll never get a chance to ride it again. Maybe it'll be the last ride.
I never did ride it again. I rode it the previous
visit, rides, let's find something else to ride. You're in this ghost town of Six Flags America on a Tuesday. The last Tuesday, I think will ever be open. Fact check me.
And that was the last Tuesday it was ever open. I visited Six Flags America on the last Tuesday it was ever open.
There you go.
Along with the very last day.
I remember because I'm old when theme parks used to give you physical maps when you came in.
You know where you can still get physical maps at a theme park?
Apps, and
Magic
Kingdom. You get signs like this.
And in multiple languages.
Digital map signs. I miss the days of paper maps. I'm starting to collect them though. Anything cool on here?
Look all that space in the Gotham City area. Looks like they were definitely planning for something.
Gaps. Looks like they were planning on certain things in this park and never built it, especially in that Gotham City section.
It's a big old field.
Cool.
Plop some roller coasters down. Real life roller coaster tycoon park.
Well, the app said it was open.
Man, I walked all the way back to Steamtown to ride a ride that the app said was open, but once I got to it, it was closed.
Perhaps
not really surprising at Six Flags America, but frustrating nonetheless.
Go down to Universal to ride the Jurassic Park River Adventure, I suppose.
There's a dinosaur. What is that? A Spinosaurus?
What dinosaur is that?
That was in Jurassic Park 3, right?
Comments below. Well, I wasn't planning on getting soaked today, but I'm just going to ride Shipwreck Falls at this point. There's no line. I feel bad for the ride operators just sending out.
I've had bad luck with boat rides over the past year.
People on it. So.
On all my final visits to Six Flags America, the Dinosaur River Rapids ride was never open. The entire reason I planned the time frame I planned my Orlando trip for was because of the Jurassic Park River Adventure closing down for refurbishment. And I got down there and went to Universal the day before it was supposed to close down for a year-long refurbishment, but the ride was closed a day early, so that was disappointing. And then we went to the Magic Kingdom. We were in line for Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which is formerly Splash Mountain, and that also closed while we were in line and didn't open for the rest of our day at Magic Kingdom. So yeah, I struck out on a lot of boat rides over the past year.
Here it comes. Big splash.
But you know what? You could always ride. Always count on being open if weather permitting. Shipwreck Falls at Six Flags America.
Guys, I just rode Shipwreck Falls, and I am absolutely drenched right now.
Microphone really wet.
It's low 70s. It's cloudy. It's a little windy right now. I'm probably gonna catch pneumonia. I'm supposed to go to Six Flags Great Adventure
Luckily,
tonight.
I didn't get sick.
Goes to Brock Chris.
Oh yeah, this was the same day where we left to go to New Jersey for Six Flags Great Adventure. I forgot all about that.
But yeah, so the one thing I don't understand about this Shoot the Chutes ride is at the very top, there is no water when you go through the top channel.
Oh yeah, there is no water at the top channel.
I don't know,
that was
it's
very
strange. Bumpy up there.
Very bumpy, yes,
boat
it was.
Just riding across the metal. So I hear the boat going up the lift now, and I'm going to get the hell out of the splash zone. I'm soaked enough. I'm a bit wet. So I just made the mistake of trying to take a picture of the boat. Well, I did take a photo of the boat ride Shipwreck Falls from the splash zone back there. But I didn't get out the way in time. But I got a good photo, I hope. But yeah, I got wet again. But at this point, what does it really matter? I'm soaked, folks.
Not a bad photo. Good job, Jabroni.
Carriage Repairs by John Adams.
Second president of the United States.
You know the second president was both the president and a carriage repairman, now did you? Only at Six Flags America. I think I found another abandoned place here at Six Flags. Let's take a look. We're at the very
another
front of
abandoned space.
Town.
This isn't Steve Town. I'm not sure what this used to be. Probably an eatery of some kind.
Sorry, we're closed. Cerrado. Lo siento. Can't really see anything on the inside. Oh well. Wonder what this used to be.
They don't really put a lot of effort into blocking off these abandoned spaces at Six Flags America. You can just kind of walk up to a lot of them. You know, I just walked up to this, and there's
I just seem to wander in all kinds of abandoned
random stuff they got.
I'm not even supposed to be back here.
I don't think they really cared that much at that point.
Anyone in the window?
I wonder if anyone. Why is that window open? Someone
trying to get out of here. There's like a million security guards wandering.
Creepy.
Park today.
Spooky.
So that was another episode of Abandoned Places with Rob on the Super Coaster Barrage channel, our network of programming.
I never did see a show inside of there. Looks cool though.
Looks pretty closed here in the saloon.
Six Flags America had a lot of potential.
So sadly, the app is very wrong about this attraction because the Quantum River Rapids, aka the Dino River Ride, is still closed. Chain's still down. Looks like no dinosaurs for me today, folks.
Well, very sad to get
might have what will be maybe my last ride on Professor Screamore Skywinder. Let's head down there and check it out. Yeah. Time to ride Professor Screamore's Skywinder for perhaps the final time, at least the final time on a weekday for sure.
I think this was the final time I ever rode it, because I definitely didn't ride it on the last day ever of operations there. I had higher priorities, like waiting 2 hours for the Wild One and waiting an hour and a half for Superman Ride of Steel.
I don't know. They come.
Oh, there goes
no idea what they're in for.
Everyone's favorite.
Good luck to them. You're gonna need it.
That was a very rough ride.
Do they not realize await them once they get down that hill? I hope they're mentally and physically prepared for what they're about to experience on this ride. Are those faces of happy people? Do you think they enjoyed their ride? Do you think they're going to remember that for the rest of their lives? Roar.
Roar, Katy Perry song roller coaster.
The Zamperla Flying Carousel.
I do really like
the label on the ride. It's made by Zamperla, see?
Zamperla?
Made by Zamperla. And they're still around today making spinny rides. I think I'm going to ride the Wild One in the front row. I don't think I've done that yet. Might be my last time ever on the Wild One, so let's get the front row whirl, shall we? The Wild One. I wonder if it's going to get moved anywhere. Probably not. Probably gonna
to my knowledge, it is not being moved anywhere.
How old am I, according to you? Okay.
Happy birthday!
Oh yeah, it was the ride attendant's birthday. I wanted to ride the ride attendant's claims it was.
It's rough around that part.
It's a big helix. Half the vending machines at Six Flags America didn't work either. definitely that machine wasn't working, and
Ain't got no
an
gas
ice
in
cream
it.
machine I saw at some point didn't work either.
Abandoned Coke machine at the Wild One, Six Flags America. Trying to make my way
Probably like $8 for a
to the
stupid
front of the
20-ounce
park.
Coke
I don't
anyway.
think
There,
Batwing is
as I
going to
said at
open
one point,
today.
Six Flags America,
Pretty confident
Six
that
Flags parks
Superman
in
Ride of
general
Steel
are
will
very
not open
overpriced for
today.
food and beverage.
But not bad. I'm glad I got my last weekday fix. Guinevere, I don't know.
Mardi Gras, Nolans.
What do we have over here? Some gators. I still haven't researched to figure out what attraction used to be here on this concrete
I still
pad.
don't know what was there on that concrete
Once
pad.
again, if anyone knows, let me know in the comments below. Scenic hike back to the front of the park. Got a lot of steps in today, that's for sure. It's a small park, but I walked around it a lot. It's a nice water fountain. Very empty down Main Street right now. Very empty.
As I said earlier,
People are
like,
coming into
for
the
a
park at this
regional
time.
park,
Music is
Six
very
Flags
loud.
America had a
Stop
pretty
now.
cool
Time
entrance.
for me
It was
to
kind of
leave.
like a colonial Main Street.
It's been a solid day here at Six Flags America. Been here for about, oh wow, 4 hours? I don't think I expected to even stay here that long. My final weekday ever at Six Flags America. Definitely my final Tuesday. Hopefully I'll
Watching
definitely
these
will be back
videos makes me
November 2nd,
sad.
of course.
I'm really gonna miss Six Flags
As always.
America. It's really not gonna hit until I can't
all
just visit when these parks start opening next month. Oh well, let's find something else to watch. That's not Six Flags America. It's getting depressing watching Six Flags America videos now. Let's watch a video on the Haunted Mansion, my new favorite attraction.
Out of the many classic Disney attractions, the Haunted Mansion is one of the most timeless and iconic. It stands not only as a well-designed series of scenes with an immense amount of detail, but also as a representation of thousands of years of metaphysical speculation and
This is
belief.
another quality video from one of my favorite
The
YouTube
idea of
channels,
life after death
Poseidon
is as old as
Entertainment.
humanity itself, and the ghosts that come with it are an essential part of civilization. I'm sure that if you're here watching this, you probably already have an inkling of the history of the Haunted Mansion. However, what no one really speaks about is the history that inspired it. Where does the ghost story come from, and how is it manifested into the attraction that we know
Spooky.
today? The goal here is to explore not just the history of development behind this classic Disney attraction, but also to provide an overview of the culture and stories you can find woven throughout. It's one thing to appreciate an attraction that is really well designed. It's another to be able to point to specific elements when you're riding it, understanding where they came from and the inspiration behind them. Join me today as we learn something new about the history of the Haunted Mansion, and gain new perspective on what makes this attraction a cultural force in and of itself. Before understanding the impact of ghostly history on the development of the Haunted Mansion, we should first define what it means to be a ghost. In Ghosts, A Haunted History, author Lisa Morton dedicates a chapter to this particular topic. According to her, in our contemporary Western thinking, the ghost is the spirit of a deceased individual that manifests itself to us after their death. But in the past, and in other cultures, the ghost may be very different. Belief in ghosts seems to be nearly universal, but the shape the undead spirit takes varies according to society's collective imagination. She first discusses the origin of Geist, a German word referencing a force of life. The word, as introduced into English, kept this meaning until around 1590.
Microphone.
The modern conception of the Western ghost as an otherworldly, metaphysical spirit is found as early as Geoffrey Chaucer's poem, The Legend of Good Women, published in the 1380s. Published between 1599 and 1602, Shakespeare's Hamlet also featured the king, or Hamlet's murdered father, as the ghost archetype we are so familiar with today. Morton also references Shakespeare's Venus and Adonis, where ghosts are
Currently
associated
watching
with
a
fear and
video about the
omens.
inspirations for Disney's The Haunted
In Venus and
Mansion.
Adonis, Morton states, "Death is described as a grim grinning ghost, a phrase that would later become the title of the theme music to Disneyland's
Grim
famous
grinning
ghost
ghost.
ride, The Haunted Mansion." As Morton has previously stated, though, not all conceptions of a ghost adhere to the contemporary archetype. In the West, the idea of a ghost is often conceptualized as a soul, which has remained in the physical world despite death, with the contemporary definition of soul taking on a similar meaning to the previously mentioned Geist. A ghost is a soul that can be tangibly experienced through our physical senses. One may experience a translucent figure, feel an invisible touch or cold spot, or even smell a scent associated with the deceased.
I don't think I've ever seen The Haunting.
However, not all conceptions of
Keep
ghosts fit this
referencing in
description.
this video so far.
Morton goes on to elaborate that different cultures sometimes thought spirits could take the form of an animal, or could perhaps be a tangible,
The
touchable
Pepper's
entity.
ghost effect is still effective
In Britain,
the
for
21st
example,
century.
there is a legend about the huntsman Gabriel Ratchets, who was accompanied by ghostly hounds. Concerning physical entities, Morton also uses the example of the Draugr in the Norse religions. The Draugr were anything but wispy spirits with little power. They were, instead, closer to revenants, reanimated corpses that could interact physically with mortal kin. Perhaps we today hold certain conceptions of what it means to be a ghost, but as Morton has illustrated, there's a lot of variety in interpretation. Taking into consideration the many interpretations of what it means to be a ghost, let's go back thousands of years into some of the earliest iterations of the ghost story. Ghosts in the ancient world often took on the role of aiding a
Hey,
hero's
it's
journey.
Hades.
In the case of Homer's Greek poem, The Odyssey, Odysseus travels to the underworld by the stream of Oceanos, that convenes a number of shades. He digs a pit and creates a concoction of mixed liquids and sheep's blood, drawing to him the souls of the underworld. Odysseus allows the shades to drink the blood, but only after they answer his questions and reveal what he needs to continue his journey. One soul he consults is his mother, who reveals to him that she has died out of sorrow, thinking he was dead. Odysseus attempts to embrace his mother, but cannot
I
do so
vaguely
because she is
remember
not
this
tangible.
story from studying
Yet when more shades come to
mythology.
consume the blood, he draws the sword to keep them away until they can be questioned. This is an odd bit of narrative. The shades cannot be touched by Odysseus, yet can be kept away by his sword and are able to consume the concoction. Another example of the ancient ghosts is with Virgil's Roman poem, the Aeneid, in which the hero Aeneas also travels to the underworld in order to gain information for his journey. On his way in, he encounters a number of dreadful entities and guardians, and is even ferried across the river Styx by the ferryman Charon. When Aeneas finally reaches his father, Anchises, he too attempts to embrace him as Odysseus attempted to embrace his mother. Like Odysseus, he fails to do so because Anchises is not corporeal. Anchises also plays the same role as the Shades in the Odyssey, in that he provides information that will guide the course of the rest of Aeneas' journey. In the case of these ancient poems, the idea of the ghost is quite different than the contemporary conception. It appears that they can be physical under certain conditions, and that they can drink blood or be driven back by Odysseus' sword, or that Aeneas can actually visit the underworld as a physical place. When actually interacting with the heroes, though, these shades cannot be physically touched. The role of guiding a hero's journey is not unique to Hellenized civilization, though. Morton makes this point about ancient literature in general when referring to another text. In the Sumerian tale, Gilgamesh, Enkidu, and the Netherworld, dating from around 2000 BCE, the ghost of Gilgamesh's friend Enkidu returns to warn the great hero that any description of the afterlife would make him sit down and weep. The modern ghost can certainly play the role of advancing a protagonist's journey, as the ghosts in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol do, but this is not prominent outside of ancient tales. Transitioning to a different area of the ancient world, ancient Egypt has had a large influence on horror films, and Morton touches a bit on this. The Egyptians believed in not simply a single soul, but multiple soul-like essences that combined to form an individual. The Ka was a spirit placed into an infant at birth and forcibly separated from it at death. It always lingered close to the body, and so was typically thought to inhabit the tomb, where it was provided with the food, drink, and other necessities that it had enjoyed in its physical form during life. The Ba was the personality that defined each person. The Ak undertook the perilous voyage into the afterlife, where, if it survived a series of tests and trials, it would eventually stand before Osiris to be judged. The preservation of the body through mummification was done in order to allow the Ak to pursue eternal life. Spells were painted on the inside of the sarcophagi to assist the Ak in its journey. This is, of course, a religious practice, but one that influenced the malevolent mummies of horror films. Out of the many sources we have, there is one ancient story in particular that influenced the contemporary conception of ghosts the most. Morton relates the story of an ancient philosopher who rents a house and encounters a ghost in clanking chains. The ghost directs the philosopher to his buried but neglected body, and once properly attended to, disappears. The element of a ghost appearing because the dead was not properly taken care of seems to be a fundamental element associated with Western concerns of why ghosts might appear. Morton also cites another similar story, A Garden of Curious Flowers from the 16th century, penned by Antonio de Torquemada, that follows the same narrative. The ghost in clanking chains isn't always the most common aspect of the Western ghost story, but it certainly is an archetype. The ghost with clanking chains evokes in the Western imagination Dickens' A Christmas Carol again, where the ghost of Scrooge's partner, Jacob Marley, appears. Marley is restrained by chains, symbolizing his lifetime of greed, but otherwise, the hanging chains that one might find is oftentimes just a spooky element.
I didn't know that's what the symbolism for.
Continuing on, the conception of ghosts in medieval Europe do not influence much in the way of popular culture today, but they do provide the origin of the modern ghost story. Concerning this era, Morton states, ghost stories were frequently collected by monasteries, where they served to prove the existence of the afterlife and the possibility of miracles. These tales, which usually centered on the spirits of saints or monks, might tell of a troubled spirit returning to seek masses or prayers, a ghost providing some form of instruction, or a supernatural visitor offering descriptions of angels, the Virgin Mary, or heaven. Come the modern era, Morton argues that ghosts abandon their religious context, and instead invite secular views from the Age of Enlightenment. Despite the rise of skepticism towards the supernatural, sightings of such entities rose in popularity and were often associated with structures. Such stories often refer to poltergeist activity in houses or castles, where objects float and sounds are heard. Such ghost stories became quite popular, such as the case of the Cock Lane ghost in London. The story behind the haunting was not scary by contemporary standards, but simply related that the house on Cock Lane was haunted by a woman who died from smallpox. The haunting was said to have occurred because the woman had in fact been murdered for her money and wanted revenge. The case of the Cock Lane ghost was concluded to be a conspiracy in court, but the skepticism didn't stop the hordes of people who flooded Cock Lane in 1762, attempting to see the house of the reported haunting. The origin of the contemporary ghost story, though, really starts with the spiritualism movement. While often categorized as a religious belief, it really served to provide as a form of entertainment, and that it often entailed people coming together around a table for communication with the dead. A number of different people famous in the movement would travel and hold seances, claiming to communicate with the dead by using parlor tricks and conning gullible people out of their money. Some performances became quite elaborate, with the Davenport brothers even putting on the illusion of floating instruments. Sound familiar? For many, the allure of being able to communicate with a deceased friend or relative may be convincing, but the spectacle of the perceived paranormal activity brings the same sense of excitement as reading a ghost story or watching a horror film. Just from the description alone, the influence that the spiritualism movement has on the contemporary ghost story is clear. The idea of connecting with spirits from beyond through the use of a medium is an essential component of any story that has characters investigating a haunted house. Tobe Hooper's 1982 film Poltergeist is a prominent example of the spiritualism movement brought to storytelling. In the film, the Freeling family began to experience strange phenomenon in their house. The activity quickly escalates as the daughter, Carol Ann, is abducted by a malicious spirit and is sucked into a metaphysical dimension. In response, the Freeling family calls in paranormal investigators to help return their daughter. When they fail, they bring in a medium by the name of Tangina Barons, who helps the family to retrieve their daughter and seemingly end the activity. Morton speaks about the decline of spiritualism when in 1884, a gentleman named Harry Seibert dies and a large sum of money is donated to the University of Pennsylvania. The money was intended to establish a chair of philosophy at the university, under the condition that spiritualism be investigated as a practice. The report, published in 1887, had a less than stellar conclusion about the validity of it. As a boom of science and technology presented itself in the 20th century, though, belief in ghosts did not wane. Thomas Edison designed a machine that attempted to communicate with ghosts, and while Albert Einstein was a skeptic, his theories on the conservation of energy were twisted to present the idea that ghosts lived on as energy once the body died.
Albert Einstein was cool, though.
Spiritualism did continue on throughout the early 20th century, despite famous figures like Harry Houdini and Harry Price debunking many of the performances and showing how the tricks were achieved. With the invention of the camera, many paranormal photographs were staged and provided as evidence. One such photo came from the medium Colin Evans, who provided a photograph that attempted to show him levitating during a seance. Despite this, though, ideas derived from spiritualism and contemporary conceptions of ghosts as energy still persist today. There are a plethora of low-effort reality television series which showcase people running around with night vision cameras and screaming about orbs.
EVP.
Finally, though, we are now starting to see how the evolution of the ghost in the Western mind has evolved into what we know today. Morton argues that the definitive origin of the modern ghost story starts in 1764, with the publishing of Horace Walpole's The Castle of Otranto. Walpole's novel is the beginning and inspiration for the heavy use of ghosts in Gothic literature. Late in the story, the ghost turns around, revealing to the character Frederick a horrible sight of a skeleton in a cow, helping to inspire the ghost as a tool of fright. Anne Radcliffe, despite having rational explanations for her ghosts by the end of her stories, helped to bolster the Gothic genre as well, with such publications as The Italian, The Mysteries of Udolpho, and The Romance of the Forest. The rise of spiritualism also coincided with a golden age, roughly 1840 through 1920, for the ghost story. Such authors as Algernon Blackwood, Arthur Monken, Charlotte Riddle, Jay Sheridan, Ed Fanu, Lord Dunsany, Vernon Lee, and Wilkie Collins contributed to the genre among many others. Most famously in 1898, the publishing of Henry James' The Turn of the Screw combined the ghost story with undertones of psychological anxiety and trauma, setting a precedent for stories told even today. Such examples are the films The Babadook and Hereditary, where themes of frustration and regret are present, adding the anxiety of the characters as an additional layer to the ghostly narrative.
Horror film, though.
Jumping off of this, one of the most famous ghost stories, if not the most famous, is Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House, published in 1959. Jackson's story is important not only because of its status among the genre, but also because it has the most direct influence on the development of the Haunted Mansion itself. It's also important to understand that while the story was influential, so was its film adaptation simply called The Haunting, released in 1963. The premise of the story is that the academic, Dr. Montague, is investigating psychic activity in a scientific manner and discovers a paranormal hotspot with the abandoned and evil Hill House. To help conduct his experiments, Dr. Montague searches for assistants that are sensitive to the paranormal, and manages to convince two women, Theodora, or Theo, and Eleanor, to come meet him there. Along for the ride is Luke, there to make sure that the property is being kept up with, as he will be the heir to the house. The Haunting of Hill House is a great narrative, and even Eleanor's personal anxiety and guilt plays a large part in allowing her to become a victim to the house, working as a great thematic archetype in establishing this story in the haunted house genre. At this point, I provided a pretty broad overview of the history of the Western Ghost Story, but I haven't really tied in too many specific elements of these stories into how they've influenced the development of the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, the Haunted
Even as
Mansion,
the single most influential
favorite.
film, I haven't touched on the elements of the haunting and how the attraction drew so much from it. However, before we can understand how the attraction we see today was influenced by these many ideas, we need to first take a look at the development history behind the attraction itself.
I think it was originally conceived as a walkthrough attraction, if I'm not mistaken, like a wax museum of sorts.
Former Imagineer Jason Sorrell in The Haunted Mansion, Imagineering and Disney Classic, states that the idea for the attraction started in 1951 with early conceptions of Main Street, USA, before Disneyland was even built. On the east side of Main Street, there was planned to be a crooked avenue that ended in a haunted house overlooking an overgrown graveyard and church. This idea, however, was discarded in favor of other mini-lands, such as International Street, Liberty Street, and Edison Square. These, of course, never manifested on Main Street either, but did inspire Liberty Square at Magic Kingdom and the American Adventure at Epcot's World Showcase. The idea for a haunted house attraction came back into play in 1957, when Walt Disney assigned the project to Ken Anderson. The reason for doing so was because Anderson designed Snow White's Scary Adventures and Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, proving that he was capable of designing attractions with a scary thrill. At this time, there were plans to complement Frontierland with what eventually became New Orleans Square, and the haunted attraction was a part of these plans. Walt, in a BBC interview when in London, expressed his plan for a retirement home for ghosts. A bit tongue-in-cheek as a promotion, this notion did later factor into the actual story of the attraction, though. There was also the issue of what the mansion itself would look like in order to fit into New Orleans Square. Anderson did research on the architecture of southern plantation houses, but the final design actually took inspiration from the Shipley Lydecker House in Baltimore, Maryland. Anderson also made a trip to the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose, helping to inspire the interior of the attraction just as it very much inspired Hill House, which we will get to in just a bit.
The scene in the Haunted Mansion.
The actual story behind the attraction went through a number of treatments, though.
Reference
At this point, the mansion was a walkthrough attraction and centered around the story of Captain Gore. Guests would enter into the Gore mansion, escorted by either a maid or butler. The guests would go down into the basement on a moving platform, with a guide pointing out secret passages, changing portraits, and moving objects. Standing in front of a portrait of Captain Gore, a pair of hairy hands would attempt to grab the guide, performed as an illusion. The guests would then encounter Captain Gore's bride and watched a series of scenes as she broke into the treasure chest and discovered that he was the infamous pirate Black Bart. The room would descend into darkness, and upon continuing through the attraction, guests would learn that she was either locked in the treasure chest or thrown down a well. Another story thrown around was that of Bloodmere Manor. The idea was that the manor itself had a bloody and violent history, but was being moved to Disneyland for restoration. Spirits in the manor executed pranks by smashing windows, furniture, and walls, and construction finally ended when a construction worker was walled up. A final conception of the mansion story included a lonesome ghost as a guide. The climax of this story ended with an overlook of the graveyard from the conservatory, with the headless horseman from Disney's The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad making an appearance. His arrival would signal the beginning of a wedding party featuring such characters as Dracula, Frankenstein, and the ghost of Julius Caesar, likely a reference to Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. This final treatment, of course, borrows a lot more heavily from Gothic horror, not exclusively the ghost story. Other elements, such as the lonesome ghost, or the ghost host, moving platforms to the basement, the stretching room, and Captain Gore, which exists as a portrait Easter egg, have also made their way into the final iteration of the attraction, with the idea of the graveyard party, of course, playing the largest role.
I think that's my favorite
However,
scene on the
as
ride.
the development of the attraction began to solidify with certain elements, Walt brought in Raleigh Crump and Yale Gracie, who would go on to become legendary Imagineers. Raleigh was known for his experience and interest in stage illusions, as well as the many odd, kinetic sculptures that he would often build. Yale, on the other hand, was a background artist who could also lay out detailed models. Together, the two men would work to create many of the earliest illusions and set pieces that would come to define the Haunted Mansion experience,
Pepper's ghost
often
effect.
looking back to older techniques used in hardware tricks to achieve many of the elements found in the attraction today. For example, the ghosts in the ballroom scene were created through the Pepper's ghost effect, in which painted models are reflected onto glass to give the illusion of a translucent figure.
It still works great.
In a way,
to
this
day.
usage of such effects
When I was a
almost
kid,
works
I
as a
thought
tribute
those
to the
ghosts
early
were
parlor
real.
tricks that came with the spectacle of 19th century seances. I have to imagine that this history was a direct inspiration on Raleigh and Yale when attempting to figure out how to create their own convincing ghosts. Creative direction on the attraction would stall yet again, as Walt tasked his Imagineers with creating a new slate of attractions for the 1964 New York World's Fair. The exterior for the Haunted Mansion would be built and completed as part of the new Disneyland expansion of New Orleans Square in 1963, but would continue to remain vacant until the project could start up again. When work resumed, Walt now brought in animator Mark Davis and background artist Claude Coates to help develop the project further. In conjunction with another new influence, X
I think they
Atencio,
collided
who would
over
write the
what they
script and
wanted
lay out the overall narrative,
moods
the project would
for the
continue
ride
to
be.
develop
One
into the
wanted to be
attraction that
more
we know
comedic
today.
and one wanted to be more
As lead
spooky.
artist on the first audio
I'm sure they'll
animatronic
dive
show,
into
The
that here in
Enchanted
a
Tiki
second.
Room, and a prominent designer for updates on Jungle Cruise scenes, Mark would bring his unique style of gags to the Haunted Mansion at a time when it was still quite scary. Claude, on the other
I
hand,
think the current
used his experience as a
attraction is
background
perfect
artist to
mix
create
of
the ominous and
spooky,
foreboding sets and
creepy,
atmosphere
but
to
also
work as a backdrop
goofy,
for Mark's
quirky, and
designs.
funny. It's
At this point in the
quintessential
development,
Disney,
the
really.
Haunted Mansion was designed as a walkthrough attraction
Got
with
everything.
elaborate set pieces, and Raleigh at one point proposed a Museum of the Weird, taking the ghostly material in a more fantastical direction. Walt liked the idea of the many strange designs that came with it, proposing it work as a pre-show to the actual experience, where guests could take their time to look at all the different oddities. This idea won out over what would have been a haunted restaurant adjacent to the attraction, like the Blue Bayou, or the also in development Pirates of the
A
Caribbean.
haunted restaurant, interesting.
However,
That'd be
when
cool.
Walt died in 1966, the idea was scrapped when the project moved forward, although many elements, most famous of which was the Seance Room, made it into the final attraction. Walt had brought in Mark and Claude together to work on Pirates of the Caribbean, and their creative collaboration resulted in the fantastic ride that we still see today. However,
Yeah,
with
Pirates
Walt
of the
now no
Caribbean
longer
is
being
pretty
there to have
solid.
final
I've only
say,
ridden the one in Magic
the two
Kingdom. It's
Imagineers
pretty
fought for
good.
influence over the
But I
direction
hear
that the
one at
Haunted Mansion should
Disneyland
take.
is way better. I know it's
Would it be
5 minutes
lighthearted and
longer.
full of the gags that Mark was known for,
The one in Magic
or would it take a
Kingdom
scarier
seems to
direction that
abruptly
incorporated
end.
the atmosphere that Claude has spent
Pirates
so
of the
much time
Caribbean, that is
conceptualizing?
not the Haunted Mansion.
Well, as you can see, it's both. The first half of the attraction oozes creepy and horrific atmosphere that Claude excelled with, and the second half reflects that sillier direction that was
This
the
is what I was
signature
talking
of
about
Mark.
earlier.
Both
Claude
tones
and
were
Mark's
incorporated
different
together
visions
beautifully by
combined.
Olive X Atencio, and the story of the mansion evolved from Walt's earlier comment about it being a retirement home for displaced ghosts from all over. On a side note, the attraction at this point was clearly no longer a walkthrough. With the development of Ford's Magic
The
Skyway for the
Omni Mover ride
1964
system.
World's Fair, Imagineers took the
Can't get more
continuously loading
efficient than
conveyor
that.
system
Keep them
and added
cars
vehicles
moving.
capable of spinning and
Get
providing
in the
audio,
car while it's
allowing
moving.
a narrative to play out and letting guests see only what the Imagineers wanted them to see. This new system, called the Omnimover, would first debut in 1967 with the Tomorrowland attraction called Journey Through Inner Space, what would obviously come next to the Haunted Mansion, all in the interest of guest capacity. Finally, after 6 years of speculation and often thematically appropriate morbid rumors, the Haunted Mansion opened at Disneyland on August 9th, 1969.
And then what happened?
We've spent quite a bit of time becoming familiar with the history of the ghost story, and of course now the history of development behind the Haunted
Watching
Mansion.
a video about the origins
Finally,
of the
it's time to tie
story
it all
of Disney's
together,
Haunted Mansion.
and there's no better place to start than with Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. From the start, Hill House itself is described almost as being alive, the story never lets the characters actually witness any ghosts, and it's almost as if the house is an evil entity in and of itself.
I've never
Objects
seen The
move around the
Haunting.
house
Has anyone
mysteriously,
seen The Haunting?
doors
I
will slam
haven't.
shut with no warning,
I feel like after watching
and the
this
house
video, I
acts as
should
a
watch it
labyrinth,
though.
taking characters in circles and having them often get lost. No doubt, the Winchester Mystery House, as mentioned earlier, was a large
Oh, I
inspiration behind
misspoke.
this
It's not
depiction.
the Remington Mystery House.
The
It's
confusing
the,
layout of Hill
Winchester
House, often leading
Mystery
people to
House.
get lost,
Wrong gun
seems to have been
manufacturer, my
emulated
bad.
with the Haunted Mansion as well. We of
What,
course have the
kidding?
stretching room, trapping guests in with no way out. In the Magic Kingdom version, it includes a room with endless staircases, no doubt inspired by M.C. Escher's Relativity, but is very much in line with the
They
endless
don't have
hallways
that
that define
scene
Hill
at the
House.
Disneyland version? Oh, wow.
However, the house itself isn't just confusing
Cool,
and
and
dreary.
exclusive to the Magic
Its
Kingdom
foreboding nature is
Haunted
often
Mansion,
described as if
apparently.
the house is watching the characters
Oh,
themselves.
kitty?
In the film adaptation of the book, this is done in a number of clever ways. For example, shots tend to linger on statues as if they are uncanny agents watching on behalf of the house. No doubt this evokes the busts that follow the guests in the Haunted Mansion itself. Another interesting choice in the film is the wallpaper. It's designed in such a way as if you could see faces if you stared long enough, which is not so subtly emulated with the iconic wallpaper
I
of
really
the
need
Haunted
to watch
Mansion
The
itself.
Haunting now. There's a lot of
Even the
influence
gothic
on the Haunted
interior of the
Mansion.
house appears to be lifted right from the film. In the hallway scene with the floating candelabra,
no idea
the vast
the
hallway
Haunted
seems to
Mansion
just keep
has so
stretching
much
on,
inspiration
just
from
as
this
they do at Hill
1963
House,
film called-
and at its entrance
called
sits a
The
chair
Haunting.
with a design resembling a face, serving as another element of the house watching the guests. At one point in the narrative for Hill House, there's a night where Eleanor and Theo are in the same bedroom together. Suddenly, the room
It
gets
really
cold,
does look
and
like
loud
the
knocking
house
can be
on
heard
Haunted
out in the
Mansions.
hallway,
Yeah, these
as if a violent
interiors.
entity is walking
You can
by and
definitely
rapping
see
on
where
the doors,
Imagineers
searching for
drew
people
some
inside.
inspiration from.
The entity
Maybe
eventually
took some
finds their room,
liberties
but
as well.
cannot open the door. This scene repeats again later in the film with the other characters, but this time the entity begins to push the door inward, bending it as it does
This
so.
looks like a movie I would enjoy.
This has been
There's
directly
some
brought to
very,
the Haunted Mansion
interesting
itself,
cinematography
in which we
going
see
on.
the doors of this hallway continue to have their knockers bang violently, and even
But yeah,
encounter
back
the
to the
bending
Haunted
door.
Mansion, my favorite ride.
Last, there's a
Ever.
scene where Dr. Montague observes a harp playing by itself in the music room, and in contrast, the various iterations of the Haunted Mansion have pianos being played by a shadowy phantom. Moving away from Hill House, though, many other aspects of the Haunted Mansion could find their origins through other sources and literature. For example, the seance room that made it into the mansion from the Museum of the Weird is obviously an emulation of the spectacle events that defined the spiritualism movement. This scene even includes floating instruments, calling back to the stunt pulled by the Davenport brothers as discussed earlier. If you're familiar with Edgar Allan Poe, you might also see some inspiration.
Oh, yeah.
For example, one of the original ideas for the house was a
Quote the
talking
Raven
raven that would
Nevermore.
work as your guide, though this was abandoned in
man.
favor of the ghost host.
Okay, the ghost
This
host
raven
is
can be
pretty
found through a
cool,
number of
but
different
the raven
scenes in the
would've been
ride,
pretty cool. Oh,
but I
there are
suspect that it may have been
ravens on the
inspired
ride.
by the talking raven of Poe's poem, simply called The Raven.
Oh boy, I thought next time I ride.
Earlier in the
I'm gonna
video,
look out
we
for all
also
the
covered that
ravens
conceptions
on
of ghosts may
Haunted Mansion.
change depending on time period and location. As a retirement home for ghosts all over, the Haunted Mansion makes some interesting choices in who it includes in it. For example, there's the coffin scene, where a reanimated corpse is trying to escape, calling for help as the doom buggies move on by. While not
there's a
necessarily
raven.
even a ghost, it does make me recall the inclusion of the Draugr, as Morton has already discussed. Another corporeal entity also seems to be the mummy, sitting in the graveyard. And while we know that Egyptian conceptions of spirits are different, at least we're getting a bit of variety. If you simply observe the inhabitants of the graveyard scene, you'll see ghosts spanning from the medieval period to the Renaissance. However, in the ballroom, we see more consistency, in that these spirits seem to have died from around the 18th and 19th centuries.
Although
This
I've
seems to be
ridden the
more in
Haunted
line
Mansion
with what we
once.
associate ghost
I need
stories
to ride
with
it
today,
again. There's
and
a lot
perhaps they are the
going on.
permanent inhabitants of the mansion, with the party in the graveyard simply working to invite in ghosts from all over. A number of inhabitants of the mansion also seem to have been heavily inspired directly from popular stories, though. For example, the look for the original version of the bride in the attic was heavily inspired by the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall, although that bride was later updated to be Constance Hatchaway, who bears little relation. The Hatbox Ghost in Disneyland's version of the ride appears to be possibly inspired by the ghastly man in the beaver hat from the now lost 1927 film London After Midnight. Finally, the hitchhiking ghosts were likely inspired by stories of hitchhiking travelers, in which an unknowing driver would pick someone up, only to find that they had disappeared before they could reach their destination. I think it's easy to see that the Haunted Mansion as an attraction draws pretty heavily from a number of different sources, the most influential of which, The Haunting of Hill House, and its early film adaptation, still resonates with audiences today. It's interesting to me how the different styles of Raleigh Crump and Yale Gracie came together to form a cohesive experience, especially when all the scenes lack a single narrative to tie them together. In a way, their conflicting philosophies on how scary the attraction should be combines with a multitude of different ghosts inspired by a large variety of stories, works to celebrate the history of the supernatural entities that have defined human relationships to the afterlife for thousands of years. However, one thing that the Haunted Mansion is certainly missing is ghosts from Asia. I think a large reason for this is because ghosts are very much a Western concept, dating back to those earliest ancient stories such as the Odyssey and the Aeneid. It's certainly true that the Haunted Mansion does not seem to represent ancient ghosts, but they still play a fundamental part in defining the West and evolving into the more contemporary conceptions of ghosts that we have today. At least we have the ancient mummy, even if I wouldn't necessarily consider it much of a ghost, if even a Western one. At Tokyo Disneyland, the Haunted Mansion there is located in Fantasyland, and the reason often given for this is because Japanese culture perceives ghost stories more as fairy tales.
I couldn't imagine the Haunted Mansion
Absent altogether at Hong Kong Disneyland, instead the park contains Mystic Manor, which is seen as a spiritual successor to the Haunted Mansion, but contains no ghosts due to cultural differences. Perhaps exploring this would be an interesting topic in and of itself. It's not the easiest to trace the culture and stories that inspired the Haunted Mansion, but we were still able to discover quite a bit regardless. The next time you read a ghost story or watch an older horror film, perhaps you'll discover something that possibly inspired the many ghosts that inhabit the Haunted Mansion. The goal of the video was to explore the history of the ghost story, as well as the development of the Haunted Mansion in conjunction with it. In that regard, I hope that you've learned something, and perhaps your perspective on the attraction has changed. Many of the older Disney classics took inspiration from history and the many cultural interpretations of it. There's nothing inherently wrong with use of IP in new attractions, but they just simply lack the depth and cultural context that defines many of the older ones. That is something that I very much appreciate, and I hope you do as well. As always, you can support the channel by just leaving a like on the video, and hitting the subscribe button with bell notification to be alerted when new videos are released.
That was the history of the inspirations for Disney's The Haunted Mansion. If you see a ribbon, you play on the kitty. The kitty. Ah! Alright, I want to call it there. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.